Did you know that 40% of the world's population has unmet skincare needs? So we're going to find out more about that.
Yeah, no.
Noelly Michoux is the CEO and co-founder of 456 Skincare. And what's cool about this company is that they're democratizing the foundational science. So we're talking about the nitty-gritty, the science of skincare, with an aim toward revolutionizing beauty and giving those of us with varying degrees of melanin in our skin amazing opportunities for great products. So welcome, Noelly.
Well, thank you so much, Corinne. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited.
So I am really excited to have you here as well, because this is probably our second international show.
Yay.
And to be able to talk about beauty and BIPOC community and with a global view is really, really exciting to me.
It is. It is an exciting community that's often kind of bundled up together. So it's really interesting to see that. Yeah, today we're kind of able to kind of walk away from that unique story of us. Yeah.
So I want to start with this is the question I ask everybody. Was the beauty industry a destination or a detour for you?
In all honesty, neither. Really. It was more circumstantial.
Okay.
To be quite clear. Yeah. You know, life has a funny way of showing you how to fill the void within by putting you on a path that you didn't even know you needed to be on.
Right.
And that happened for me in the beauty industry. I never grew up dreaming to work in the beauty industry, not even to be an entrepreneur. I very much come back from a background that is all about safety. So find your little lane, stay there, be safe. Don't try to reach for too high because this system is working against you and you will be disappointed. And so beauty for me was a job that I landed out of necessity when I decided to move to New York to be with my boyfriend.
Okay.
And at the time, I found myself becoming more passionate about the product, about the people at the receiving end of this product, and also about the impact that beauty can have on individuals and especially in underaddressed community. So it was never a destination. It was not even a detour, but it did give me the canvas to dare to dream bigger and to create, even that word, create. I was never put in a position where I could conjugate the verb create. Beauty gave me that, a way to create something that was healing for myself, that could be healing to others, and to dare defy the limitations of my circumstances. And it gave me a purpose, and I'm so grateful for that.
That's wonderful. So let's talk about it. Your background. Where did you grow up? And you talked about safety, but how did how you grew up impact the way that your ideas around beauty?
Yes. I was born, so I'm a French national, but I was actually born in Central Africa in a country called Cameroon. But I was raised in Normandy in France. And so I moved to France to be with my new family. And this happened because my mom passed away. And we have this amazing culture in our family. I think this is widely done in most of Western Africa. When a family member passes away, if they have children, the children are adopted by members of the family. And so this is what happened for me. And my aunt, my mom's sister, became my mom. And it just happened so that she lived in France. And so just like that, I had to move to France to be with my new family. So I landed in a little village in Normandy, not very diverse. And it was very disconcerting for me to go from a place where I blended in. I never
Right.
thought about my skin color or anything, to just be in a place where I stood out so much. Very bizarre. And in where I grew up, obviously, a greater emphasis was placed on Eurocentric beauty standards, and all that was described as beautiful was not me. And
Right.
that's just the perception of beauty that I grew up with. Beautiful is not you. And I really believed it, until I was in my 20s. And then I really had to learn. This is from self-coaching. This is for also seeing other Black women, darker skinned women, especially Black American women, kind of owning up to their beauty. That really helped me to learn how to embrace my own and my natural features. And I started to find sort of a way to define beauty in a way that worked for me. And that was really unconditional acceptance and love. Yeah, it was such a process. It still is a
Yeah.
process today.
I
Yeah,
can only imagine going from a community where, as you said, you blended in, and so there was not this "you look different from me, something wrong with you" kind of uh,
yeah,
experience. But and then like it's culture shock. But you were very young, so that was a challenge.
yeah. Yeah, it really was, and it's amazing just how resilient children are, but also children that are immigrant, right? Because we do have this ability to, at least that's how it went out for me. I don't know how, but really able to analyze my environment and really understand what it meant to be me in this new society and just how positional skin was. And so there's two ways that you can kind of react in these new situations. You can try to rebel and kind of tense against the system, which frankly it never helps. But for me, I was really able to analyze it and figure out how I was going to adapt, to integrate and even assimilate. Maybe I took it a little bit far, but after I kind of had to learn how to pedal back, to go, to deconstruct all of that and find myself again. Yeah, it was such an interesting process, really.
Right, right. So in that finding yourself, did you buy beauty products? And if so, do you remember what the first product you purchased was?
Yeah, obviously, growing up in a small village, beauty shopping
Right,
was very limited to pharmacy or supermarket. Those were your
right,
options, really. But my mom's go-to products were these pharmacy kind of classic brands like Topi Creme that we bought mainly for the body because it got dried. We were so,
right.
we had so dry skin to the body. But it's really when I moved to Paris. So I was 17 and a half when I got my A level, and I decided to go for the big city. Obviously, my parents were super scared for me. But it's when I got to Paris that to go to university
Hmm.
that I experienced my first beauty purchase, like just getting in the store, the feeling of seeing all these amazing beauty products and picking up something for myself. I could remember it like it was yesterday. And so I go in a store and I buy this, my very first oil serum from a brand called Yves Rocher.
Yes, I know it.
I really like this brand for a long time because they've been around since the 60s and really known for being like the pioneer of cruelty free. And let me tell you, this serum, it felt like a serious upgrade, from the shea butter, the coconut oil. And my mom used to bring a lot of stuff from Cameroon, but very raw, good for you, but so raw and filtered, that
Right,
natural smell. This, it just felt really luxurious and indulgent. And this is also when I learned about the importance of really cleaning your skin before you go to bed. And so I just loved going through this little routine because I knew I was going to apply my serum, and it was like such a reward. And I loved it so
right.
much.
So it's like this pampering, like luxury pampering experience that at
Yeah,
17, that's major. At 17, I don't think I was even thinking about that yet. But it's
yeah, but Absolutely. I mean, and I didn't have the choice because something really interesting happened to me when I moved to Paris. Obviously, I grew up in the countryside. There's a lot of nature around. Never sneeze a day in my life. Right. I
Okay.
moved to Paris overnight. I become allergic to so much, and I'm having, these skin issues, acne, the acne scars that come, and that was pollution. So that really set me on a path to searching for beauty products, and like I had to find the solutions, because before I didn't have any of these issues, beside the fact that my skin was just really dry because where
Right.
we live was super cold, not a lot of sun, not a lot of humidity, just super cold. So just moving to the big city, obviously you have many more opportunities to experience beauty, but it also became a necessity because my skin started acting all sorts of way because of pollutions. Yeah.
So after you finished university, do you remember what was your first job?
Oh, so the first job after I finished university, because study.
What'd you study?
Okay, let's say. So I studied business and marketing.
Okay.
Never really had like a plan for my studies. I was kind of going with what was possible and what I could do. I wanted to go to business school, but my parents couldn't afford business school for me. So I went to university, but so lucky that in France we have an amazing public system where you can really get great education even if you're not going to business school. So
Right.
I studied marketing, then went to London to continue my bachelor's degree. But in terms of jobs, obviously I supported myself throughout school.
Okay.
So as a student, I did all the student jobs like you could possibly imagine, like anything: babysitting, cleaning lady, cashier, waitress, kitchen porter, receptionist, sales assistants, tutoring, all of it. But when I graduated, actually graduated from business from the London Metropolitan University in
Hmm.
London, and I started working as a headhunter. And that was my very first job, working in an executive search company. I didn't have a plan. I needed to make money, right? It's
Right.
like when you've been a starving student for such a long time, you're like, I'm just going to go after the opportunity and do whatever I need to do to get the money. And so I got hired in this company, and basically I had to find retail professionals and offer them expatriation in the UAE. Back in the day, Dubai was such a bustling place, tax free. It was so new, and everyone wanted to go there. But this job was really about cold prospection, because that's really what you do. If you, I don't know if that's ever happened to you, to get a phone call for someone who says, "Hey, I think I can get a better job for you." You just have to really, you
I've
just
never
have to.
had I've never had that kind of phone call.
Obviously, a lot of people just go clack,
Right.
goodbye. So a lot of prospection really requires like effort, persistence and patience. It can be very discouraging at times because you do face a lot of rejection. But I think that was like a great strength and resistance training for life in
Right.
general.
Right. So
For my
so
other
so then you would say
professional,
that those qualities that you just described you use today, like being able to rebound, to be resilient, actually even
yes.
to sell, because you were, as a young person at this executive search firm, selling people on an idea.
Yes, you're selling them on a prospect of a more exciting life with a better revenue, somewhere sunny. Obviously, you are in England. This resonates with people. Did you say sunnier, more money? Obviously, but you just had to get to those people first. So yeah, it was a very interesting kind of a first job that I had there. But and then I continued a career that was it was never like this linear path, you know, that I went back home and I started working in a completely different sector as a consultant in business intelligence, which got me to working for Sanofi Aventis, the pharmaceutical company. And I'm there, I'm still very young, and I realized that the glass ceiling is going to be upon me so fast because I do not have that master degree. The French system is very specific about this thing. And so I went back to school at age 24 to do my master's degree, and then I did an MSc in international purchasing.
Okay.
And that's when I started working as as a buyer for Heineken. So it was very opportunity, what was possible at the moment. I had no plan. I was very confused about what I wanted to do with my life, and I just needed to make a living. So
Right.
yeah.
But then you made like a radical decision to move to New York.
Yes, that was. There are moments like that that really define the rest of your life, and I think this was one of those moments for me. I decided to leave my life in France behind to move to New York City with my boyfriend. I had no working visa in the US. I knew nobody in New York. I didn't have any friends, but I was in love. I was ready for the adventure, and leaving everything behind was super scary, but also staying in a place where I didn't feel at my place, really.
Right.
I don't,
At home,
and
really.
I didn't feel at home, and nothing felt fulfilling. That was even scarier for me.
Right.
And I was like, you have nothing to lose. If it doesn't work out, you just
Go
come
home.
back home,
Yeah.
and voila. And so I moved to New York to be with Julian, which obviously turned out to be a great decision because we're still together and we have two beautiful children and we've built an life together. So that was a good decision there. But New York really turned out to be such a defining point in my life. I was in this amazing city. I felt safe. I was in love. I felt loved. I stumbled into a line of work that gave me purpose, that kind of set me on a path to becoming an entrepreneur. I became a mom in New York. I even met one of my co-founders in New York. I mean, who knew that following my heart would lead to such an epic adventure?
Right. And it's almost like, Hallmark movie or sitcom where, you follow your heart and everything works out.
Really?
But it's real and it's a Black girl too.
It's really funny because my family was obviously like, Noelly, something is very wrong with her. She is very unstable. It's like she doesn't know what she is. She finished her degree. She's working for a great company. She has so many job opportunities. Why would she move away with a boy? That's just so not like her. But all my friends told me, you're going to regret this. This is not a good idea. And his friends as well. But yeah, we proved everyone wrong.
So let's talk about the great job you've stumbled into. Like, how did that come to pass? How did you get the job? So you obviously got working papers, or did they help you get them when you got the job?
Oh, complicated. Such a complicated. You know, it is in yours. So
Yes.
Anyway, but this because it really was a job. It was not like a career. That's how it started. So you move to New York, and you know how New York is one of these cities that it just shakes you out of your comfort zone, right? It pushes you to dare to dream bigger. You're surrounded by so much energy, innovation, creative and driven individuals. You see your own partner hustling as an entrepreneur in New York City, and that really inspires you to deeply think about the impact that you want to make in the world, like how you want to feel. And we get to New York, and I was so confident. So was very interesting. Like, I was so confident that I was going to get a job. It's like, Noelly, you are good at your job. You can get about by with English. This is going to be a piece of cake. I get to New York. I start getting in interviews, obviously, to get a job in purchasing. And every time I go to an interview, everything goes amazing. I talk to the purchasing manager, the director, to say, we love your profile. Now go talk to HR. And this is where it always blocked out for me because I didn't have the working visa. And for them, it was really hard to hire someone to do a job that an American person could do.
Right.
And how I kind of spent 5 months without working. This is the first time in my life. I've been working since I was like 15. This is the first time in my life I don't have a job. So I was losing my mind. I was really losing a sense of me because being independent was such a huge part of my identity, right? I've been
Right.
think of myself since I was 17. So Noelly, working, big part of the identity. 5 months, no job in New York. I am losing it. And a friend introduced me to this French guy who was setting up his e-commerce agency in New York City. This was already a very successful agency in France. And so they were bringing it to New York. They were managing a group of French brands in luxury, makeup, perfume. And I went there for an interview and I told him I don't have any experience in beauty. Absolutely not. All I know is that I can never find beauty products that work for me. So this is interesting. And they say, look, you've had like an amazing career so far and you seem like a very versatile and adaptive person. So here is where we would need you. I was like, yeah, that sounds amazing. When do I start? I didn't care about the money or I just needed to get to work. And this really started like a job and I was able to really work my way up a senior level role because I just threw myself into this role and actually I loved it because it was so diverse. E-commerce was so interesting because you look at social media aspects of things. You look at managing the website, bringing in the products from Europe, the legal aspects of it, talking to journalists, to influencers. It was so diverse. And I was like, I really like being in this kind of a diverse and very dynamic role. And it's really being in that position and building a community around one of the brands that I was managing, that was BlackUp Cosmetics. So
Right.
back in the day, it's really, really complicated to find a makeup brand that works for darker skin tone, right?
Right.
And BlackUp was one of those rare brands, luxury makeup for darker skin tone. I tried it and I was like, oh my God, I do not look gray. I think I actually look good. The undertones actually work for my darker skin. So I really fell in love with that brand. And it's when I was developing it with a community of makeup artists, the editors, but also the customers. I just loved talking to customers that I started seeing this pattern, right? Not only Black women, but also Indian women, women that have higher melanin content in their skin, keep complaining about the same thing. Oh, is BlackUp going to do skincare? We are not able to find great skincare products, something that hydrates enough. Hyperpigmentation is an issue. The skin is always dull. I was like, wait a minute. These women here in the US, they are complaining about the same things that we complain about in Europe, right? And we find that normal because Europe is not very diverse. Obviously, we're not have inclusivity here, but this is America, the most diverse country on earth, where the African American population is so visible and so powerful, where the Asian community is so powerful. How comes we are complaining about the same thing? So I was like, this is a global issue. There is something going on about people having melanin in their skin and them not finding that satisfaction and the results that they want with skincare products.
Yes.
And the idea, the desire to kind of act upon, that piece of information, it was born there, but it was more like a dream, but I was still held back by a lot of fear. I had so much fear and I made a lot of excuses to not take the leap right there. And so I just kind of continued working for this agency. I had my daughter there, obviously went through postpartum hyperpigmentation. And this is when I met my dermatologist in New York City. That really helped me make sense of things,
Right.
explaining what is my skin, the physiology, the difference. And I was like, okay, this is the beginning of something. I need to research more. I need to be really curious about this issue. I just kept having this feeling that there was something major that was happening there.
Right. So it's almost like a burning desire inside, but then curiosity led you to entrepreneurship almost. It kind of pushed you into entrepreneurship.
It really did. It really did. When you stumble upon scientific evidence that explains a pain that you've been having your own life, and you've seen how women in this diverse community can get excited about having solution. I could see their excitement about having this makeup brand as something that worked for them. Even myself, I was like, wow,
Right.
how amazing. Just how healing would that be to have the same kind of solution for skincare, something that really understands our skin, that gives it that comfort, that hydration, and you don't have to go one layer, 2 layers into it and then add shea on top when you've spent like hundreds of euros to buy really expensive products,
Right.
And yeah, at first it was it was just like something burning inside of me. But obviously, I'm not a scientist. I'm not a formulator. I am not a product of a big beauty conglomerate, right? We
Right.
see a lot of entrepreneurs coming from. I've spent 15 years at this big beauty conglomerate, so I have the templates. I know how to make it work. Or I've been with this major tech company for 15 years, so I know how to build an organization. I was just a woman, just a customer at a receiving end of an industry, feeling something, and I stumbled upon the information, the evidence, and I wanted to act on it, and that's how it all started, really.
Right.
Yeah.
So now you have the idea, you have the dream, you have almost like a mission, right? So once you have this mission that you're wanting to fulfill, um, tell me about the process you went through, because it's not like, oh, I have this mission and you went to the formulator and they said, oh, good.
No.
Walk us through, take us through that journey, because it was a journey for you to
Yeah.
create 456. So
Mm.
I really want our listeners to understand that you fought for this in a lot of ways.
Yes, absolutely. The work started with my own self. The very first obstacle I had to overcome was my own self-criticism and my own self-doubt, and just other people's opinion. You have no idea how many ideas are kind of killed in their infancy because of the judgment that we put in it and this listening to other people. And so just this part took me years. It took me years to get out of it. Right? We could have done this a lot faster if I felt that confident. But once I was past that, so this is 2017.
Mm-hmm.
I've had my daughter in New York City in 2015. I am pregnant with my son in 2017, and we decide to come back to Europe because literally 2 kids in New York is like a lot. So we come back to Europe, and at this time, I'm just going through a lot of questioning. It's like what I want to do with my life. I've moved to go to New York City. I had to change careers again, and here I am coming back to Europe. Am I changing my career again? What am I going to do? And I didn't want to go back to corporate, and this idea was still there, and the desire was growing. And I decided at this time, I was going to find the courage to go for it. So fast forward, end of 2017, I have my son. I decide to just be with him for a while. And he was 8 months when I kind of sat down and started writing this concept, the vision behind 456, which was to create a 360 skincare system with topicals that were based on the physiology of darker skin tone, that were really aligned with their structural and functional differences, and finding that balance that allows you to get the result without antagonizing the skin. The other part was the nutraceuticals, because I read so much research that was validated later by my co-founders who were scientists, just how we could tackle beauty from the inside. And the third part was about the education. All of the information that I got from my own struggle discovery with skincare, right, at the cost of my own skin, of my own well-being, and then from doing my research, I wish someone had given me this information, during all that time. There are so many mistakes that I would have avoided with my skin. And I felt that just adding that part about educating people, it was so empowering, because when you have the information, you're able to make better decisions about your skin. And so that was the concept. And this part about making a brand that was inclusive, again, was really inspired by science, because 456 talks to 40% of the world population, but a very diverse, community, from, culturally, ethnically, very diverse. But we have similar structures in the skin. And so the idea was to also create this house, kind of a space where a Black American woman, a Black African woman, an Indian, a Pakistani mixed girl, a brown skin South American could come and say, this brand understands the structure and the functions of my skin. And so the way they're doing things works for me. And I really, it was important for me to embed that from the beginning. And so I started contacting labs, obviously thinking everyone's going to say yes to this. Like no one is creating products for these communities. I started calling labs, and I kind of learned that for a lab, doing specific research for darker skin tone was just a no-no. And my only option was to take white label formulation, so existing formulas, and tweak them and go to market. And
let me just explain to the audience what that means. So sometimes you go to a lab and they may be a contract manufacturer, and they already make a product. They make skin. They make, this is our catalog, so to speak, of what we already manufacture. And what they were offering to her is, you can have anything in our catalog and we can put your label on it, but we're not changing the formulation.
We're not changing the formulas. You can add shea, whatever oil you want to add, and go to market with it. And there are many ways that you can decide to serve this community, right? But back then I was like, wait, if I'm going to leave my babies at home and not spend time with them, I'm going to do something that feels authentic to me. It almost felt like using the same tools that the industry, the system has been using on my community. If I had done that, right? Kind of like, here's what is out there. You got to use it the way it is. It didn't feel right. I didn't want to be just the Black woman who founded a brand for darker skin tone, because you can do that and these products can still not be for darker skin tones. And I wanted them to. And so that kind of set me on a completely different path. When you create a cosmetic brand, usually the template is there. You go to a lab, contract manufacturers, you get existing formulas, you tweak them, you go to market. At least that's how it is for most independent brands. So I didn't want to do that. That set me on a path to finding a chemist, a formulator to help co-create the brand from the ground up. That's what I needed. Let's do it from the ground up.
So how did you do that? How did you find, like, you have co-founders, like you have, and people who think about, generally, if you're an entrepreneur, you don't have all the skills necessary for whether it's technical or it's scientific. Whether most people don't possess all the skills needed to get a brand to market, right? So that requires, a lot of people decide to take on co-founders, but how do you find one? Like, how did you find yours? Is the question.
It was the journey in the journey. Founders. And so at this point, just having called a lab, I know I have this obsession that I need to find a formulator. That is the only way this is going to happen for me. And so I started calling my friends. Do you know anyone who knows anyone? But through my relationships, I'm introduced to this amazing formulator who just happens to have his own lab in Lyon, which is in the central of France. I was like, wait, this is amazing. We started working together. We worked together for about 3 months, but it was very admin, like, what could this line look like? How are we going to build, from the concept that we built, how are we really structuring the line? And then out of the blue, it was just like silence, no more news from him. And then I've got an email from him saying, look, my wife doesn't want me to go onto this entrepreneurial journey. We need to keep the lab functioning for our existing clients. And so I'm out. I was so excited. Oh my God. I got so depressed. I was like, no, here goes my chance. And for weeks, I was so confused. I was completely lost. I just didn't know how to get back up. And so I go online and I start searching manufacturers in France, cosmetic stuff in France. I don't quite remember how I stumbled upon the French Cosmetic Valley. I was like, oh, this is interesting. I started reading about this Cosmetic Valley. I was like, that sounds amazing. I didn't even know. France, we have some of the biggest beauty conglomerates in this country. And there is this amazing hub, just 2 hours east of Paris, that called La Cosmetique Vallée. And they had a program called Cosmetop, which was an initiative by the French government with some of the biggest French brands to help foster innovation in the beauty industry. And so I see on that side, appel à projet, calling for innovative project. If you have an innovative project that meets this and this and this and these criteria, you can come and pitch your concept in front of a juror. And if the juror thinks your idea is amazing, you will be part of this network, and that will facilitate introductions to manufacturers and to the whole ecosystem. I was like, yep, that's my chance. And so I contacted them, pitched the project. I was like, yeah, this sounds amazing. Let's pitch in front of the juror. And so I actually went to the LVMH Research Center. This is where the pitch was happening. Mm-hmm. Pitched the idea. Everyone kind of looks at me. When people look at you and they're like, this is amazing, but this is also going to be painful, And they basically were telling me, obviously, this is like the big elephant in the room. We all see it, but no one talks about it. It's very necessary, Noelly. What you're trying to do is amazing, but it's going to be hard. How can we help you? And I was like, but I just put my my wish list out. I would love to find a formulator to really create this with me. If we could have a lab space. I started just asking for so many things. It's like, at this point, what do I have to lose? And they are the one who introduced me to my co-founder, Imen Jarbi, who is a doctor in pharmacy, an amazing formulator. We call her the skin healer, someone who just creates skincare for skin health with so much respect for the human health, for the planet, zero compromise. They introduced me to her because she also came to the same juror to present a patent that she was working on. And they say, I think you should talk to this lady. I called Iman, and it was just a match made in heaven. And so the two of us were able to get an incubation through the Cosmetop program with the LVMH Research Center. And so the universe responded. I had my formulator. I got the lab.
but you know what? How many lessons that you just showed us, like perseverance. you think you're on the right path. And I think this happens to a lot of people. How many of us
Yeah.
have started out, we have a dream, we think it's this. So you met this guy in Lyon, you're working on it 3 months, and then they ghost you. At some point, some people, that's where they stop. But you didn't, you did research. Then you find the French Cosmetic Valley, which is like Silicon Valley for beauty, right? And
Yeah.
you pitch them. I mean, you reach out, you pitch them, and it is akin to people going to Silicon Valley and getting funding, venture funding for like a SaaS company and a software company or something like that. And and then though, not only did you deliver the pitch, you asked for what you wanted. Instead of
Oh, yeah.
saying, I'm just happy to be in the room, which a lot of us
Uh,
do. Well, you got past that point. So, okay, I'm here. I'm so excited. I'm not going to ask for
yeah.
anything. But instead you said, okay, for this to work, this is what I need. And not only need
Yes.
somebody to work with, I need a place to develop it.
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
like genius. That's like so many
Yeah.
lessons.
Oh my God, that was so daring because
Yeah. Now when you hear it, you're like, I can't believe I did that. Yeah, you did.
I would say if you see the space when you enter this space, it's so impressive. It's so daunting. It's like this humongous, beautiful temple of beauty, and you see all those amazing brands, displayed, and you're like, what am I even doing here? Can I be here? But it also felt like that was my last chance, and so I just had to go for it and ask for everything that I needed, and I didn't even know that they were going to help in that way. But I'm so glad that they were so pivotal in this project, really starting, somewhere, getting that lab space, getting the co-founder that knew so much and that had the practical expertise, because this is someone that had been creating prescriptive skincare, right? Such knowledge for darker skin tone and great understanding. I mean, the universe definitely delivered for me that day.
Right. So the two of you go through this program, and
Yeah.
then after you leave the LVMH Research Center, what's
Yes.
next? Were you ready to launch then, or did you still have work to do?
We could have. We had a formula because my co-founder Iman was coming from a place of so much knowledge of I know what to do. All we need is a space where we can actually leverage my knowledge and put it into figure out a way to put it into an industrial process, because it's very different when you are creating skincare as a prescription. It's really something that the doctor in pharmacy does in an office scene, but then getting it in on that industrial level is different. We could have launched then. Just being with the incubator obviously facilitated so much for us. We were able to raise some pre-seed money, because let me tell you, when you have that Christian Dior card, everyone answers. You call the manufacturer and you say, I need this sample. They send it to you. We started pitching business angels, and we had an amazing concept, and then we kind of had this big name backing us, so we were able to raise some initial fund. And this is what happened. We could have launched. We started looking for a manufacturer, right? And here I am, kind of back to where I was with the lab.
Right.
To talk to manufacturers, and we've spent a year building a very specific formulation philosophy. This is a very specific system. And then we take it to manufacturers, and everyone says, we can't do this. This is not possible. We just came with a very kind of a tough specification saying, these are our formulas that we've created to get them to industrial level. Obviously, we need to work with you, but our water system is different. We're not using the same water that you use. We're not using the same ingredient to create texture. This is going to be a zero plastic, zero silicone zone. And this is going to be, we don't want anything that can disrupt the endocrine system. So in terms of the preservation, it was we created this very natural preservation system. But you go to manufacturers that already has their setup and their clients, and you're literally nobody, and you're asking them to change so much. So that was a no-no. And then we were like, maybe we do something different with our money, right? Instead of going after the branding, the growth, we are not ready because we have these formulas. We need to make sure that we're producing them in a way that is uncompromising, but we're also missing one very important factor, her, the customer.
Right.
We don't really know how these formulas are going to interact with her skin. And yes, we're coming from a place of science, of so much knowledge. My dermatologist, Dr. Charles, that I saw for my postpartum hyperpigmentation, also was part of the project. He's one of my co-founders. Even if we have all of that knowledge, that science, we're missing one very important factor, her. And so we were like, let's just do it differently. Let's be crazy. So we decided to build our own research space and then attach a small manufacturing unit to it. And so that's what we did. And this really allowed it to have our own space. Like here we can be free, we can be independent, we can be uncompromising. And we are going to then launch this brand in a way that allows us to continue the R&D, but in a way that is smart and inclusive of the community. So we launched 4, 5, 6, and I wouldn't even call it a launch. This is literally like, let's build a website because we have the products.
You were in beta.
Like beta. We've been through, obviously, COVID was such a thing.
Right.
Lots in COVID. Anyway, we have the formula, we have the packaging. We now have our own lab space, less customized formulas, and put them in a customer's hand, put them in a feedback loop, and really listen. Now it's time to listen to her. And this is really how we got to market in a really soft way, doing customized formulations. And customers started coming back to us with so much information that we didn't have. And let me tell you this, if we had launched the brand back then without doing this process with the customer, we would not be the company that we are here today. I can really say that the customers were an integral part of our R&D because they've told us what works, what doesn't work. We've been able to push the balance further, thanks to us, and really align those ingredients, the dosage in a way that really works for them. So from not finding a formulator to the cosmetic valet to now being in a position where we were just starting a whole nother journey. This is industrial stuff. Like none of us.
Right.
There, we find ourselves in a position where we were in full control of our creative process, and it completely changed who we were. And we didn't know that there, but we realized like, oh my God, this is such an amazing foundation for what we want to do for this community. If the vision that we have for it later is to come true, I think this is the foundation we needed. And I was so glad that we can build it and have a space where we could be free. Yeah.
If you like what you hear, why don't you subscribe to the Start Right Here podcast and leave a review? And please sign up for our mailing list at thebeautyroundtable.com so you will be in the know about all the good things coming. So what's exciting to me about what you just said is that, none of this was the traditional route. So even after the incubator, you tried to do the traditional route and it didn't. And what you actually did was, what we call here like lean startup methodology. So you validated your product before you started to manufacture in mass. You went and interacted with your customer. You got the feedback from the customer. You made adjustments, and then you created the product. And that is, that saves so much time, but also it also kind of validates that you're solving a problem, because you can think
Yes,
you're solving a problem, but if you don't talk to the customer, you're not
absolutely.
necessarily solving the problem they want you to solve.
Absolutely. That is something that we realized, and it was so amazing when we started receiving feedback from the customers. One of the one of the first thing that came out was that customers were getting a cleansing purge, you know, from the product. Because the way we created this product is really, we have this vitalized water that allows the formula, the ingredient to really penetrate deeper in the skin. And this is so important because our research showed that darker skin tone do have a stratum corneum that is denser than white skin. And so if you want the product, you really want the skin to get the nutrients, you need to figure out a way to vectorize that formula. So you have that, and then we are using only biodynamic ingredients. And the way the formula were designed, it was for skin health. And the first step to skin health is skin cleansing, right? We saw that when people use our formula, if they had clogged pores, anything in their pores, the first thing that the product would do is get everything out, kind of accelerate that cells renewal, accelerate that, and then people will get purging spots, which obviously you cannot know that if you don't have customers kind of testing it. We're like, all right,
Right.
the purging is amazing because Iman was like, they have to go through it to really clean the skin and then put the skin on a path to health, right? But then you also have to take into account that this woman, she's a lawyer, she's a teacher, she's a nurse. She doesn't want to have
Go to
like
work with purging spots.
and so let's find a way to mitigate it and make sure that, yes, the skin is still getting the cleansing that is necessary to get healthy, but let's calm it down. And the customers, they allowed us to do that. Same for the fragrances. We had people saying, we don't want fragrance. We want more. We want medium. And so we were like, let's figure out a way to create fragrance free for those who don't like fragrance. And then let's even give the customer that medium fragrance, and the one who love full fragrance, then they get it. And let's make sure these fragrances are clean and they're aligned with the 4, 5, 6 ingredient philosophy. And then just giving them those options. They were so happy. Oh my God, I can't believe we can choose no fragrance and have a fragrance. But it was really, for all of the improvements that we made, they were inspired from the customers and getting their feedbacks. I mean, that was major. And we still are in that process today where before we put a product out, we have a group of customers that are testing, giving feedback. We incorporate the feedback before we put it out.
So talk to me about the line now. How many SKUs do you have? And let me ask you, before you answer that, I wanted to ask you, so you have very specific ingredients, even the water that you're using. So how did you source all of that?
Yes. Oh, that sourcing part, that was interesting because a little story about when we were in the incubator, we could have access to their ingredient manufacturers, which was amazing for us because at the beginning you need to buy such small quantities that you just don't meet most manufacturers' MOQs. And the fact that we can get them from the incubator stock, that was amazing. Obviously, we didn't think about the part where you have to actually place the orders and those MOQs. Until we get to that point, we're like, okay, let's order all of our raw materials. And then the manufacturers hit us with, the MOQ here is 100 kilo, and that's 50 kilo, and that's 20 kilos. And we're like, we only need 2 to 5. And so this was like so depressing. We had to change about 50% of our ingredient list and find other manufacturers that were able to kind of meet our MOQs, which was a blessing in disguise. Really, as a small company, you always need to find those manufacturers that can meet you there, right? Because when you're working with the big guys, your quantities are just so insignificant
Right.
To them. But our approach the ingredient philosophy at 456 is very simple. It has to sustain the skin. It has to sustain the human health overall, and it has to be sustainable for the planet. So in the bottle, we are never ever going to put something that's just there to fill the bottle. We from the water, we made it. Water is 80% of most skincare ingredients.
Right.
Let's make water into an active ingredient that really brings some health benefits to the skin. So that was the first thing. The second thing was when you source ingredient, obviously we all source from the same INCI list, right? And you have different manufacturers providing the same ingredients, and we always made sure that our ingredient went through a very thorough process of analyzing them in the lab, making sure that they didn't have nanoparticles, because you can have the same ingredient. One has all of these impurities. It has a preservation system that is not aligned with how you want your preservation system to work. You can have one that is over-filtered, and you have the other ingredient that's just coming with a very different sort of ID. So we always made sure that all our ingredients were kind of meeting these criteria. We source from obviously big distributors in Europe, but we also have smaller manufacturers from Europe that we buy directly from. And those are very important relationships to have, because with these manufacturers, the smaller one, you are able to go to them and say, can you change this raw material? Can we produce one that doesn't have this very specific part, because that doesn't work for us? And they will do it because they are flexible. The big guys, they just can't do that. And so it's mainly European sourcing. We have a very tiny group of ingredients that come from Korea and from Australia. We have this amazing antioxidant that we can only find in Australia. So we're sourcing it there, but it's mainly European based. That's really for the ingredients. But the main thing about the philosophy is it has to support the skin, extend the skin function, respect the overall health, and obviously the balance that melanin-rich skin needs. Because what I experienced in the industry and that I saw and I keep seeing today is this approach to treating melanin-rich skin that believes that we have to do it so strongly, right? It has to be so strong, the high percent acid. For something to be effective, we need to see that X% of vitamin C, and then 10% of this and 5% of this. And we just had research that did not support that, because we know that darker skin tone, contrary to popular belief, are actually very sensitive, right? And melanin plays a big role in that. Melanin is a protector to our skin, right? We have these melanin producing cell called melanocytes that are very robust and very active in people with darker skin tone. And so what happens is when your skin is subject to any kind of inflammation, right? It can be pollution, like I told you before, for my skin. It can be the cold. It can be you popping your pimples. It can be a higher percentage acid. It can be mechanical exfoliation, which would then lead to micro tear. All of that prompts your melanocytes to go into overdrive and start producing excess melanin to protect the inflamed area. And so when you understand the relationship between inflammation and hyperpigmentation, which is one of the biggest issue we have, obviously, you have to align that in the way you create products, which is, yes, I want it to be effective, but I need to have a gentle, multi-tiered approach and not go for that hero ingredient that, is going to give result at first, but at some point will really backfire on the skin. So these were very important approaches that we had with our ingredients. And really just doing that, you come at the end of it and you're like, oh, this is great. We have over 90% of natural biodynamic ingredients. The formulas are all I don't like using the word clean because that term is very confusing to me, but it's very much health centric,
Right.
and it's sustainable, and there's nothing in it that can antagonize the skin. And that's really what we want.
Right.
Yeah.
So how many products are in the line?
So right now we have 8 SKUs. So obviously, coming from our customized system, we had the thousands of combinations possible with this SKU. But we have 8 SKU, and the way we really built the line was for it to work as a team.
Okay.
These are products that you can use in a routine, and it's perfectly dosed for you to stack the benefits without it being too much, for your skin. So we have 2 cleansers. We have one cleanser, that's we call it Come Clean cleansing oil. This is like a treatment oil, concentration of over 10 precious natural oils. We've included anti-inflammatories, antioxidant, and we are using very mild emulsifiers for this oil. And what we wanted to do with this oil was to obviously make sure that you are cleaning the skin, but in a way that is very gentle, that rebalances excess sebum, and in a way that really reoxygenate your skin, especially like we live in the cities. Pollution is very much embedded in what we do, obviously having been someone who went through it. I always think about how pollution impacts the skin. So that's for the cleansing oil. And this is geared towards people with balanced to dry skin. Our second cleanser is more for acne prone, oily combination skin, and that is Green Bay. And this Green Bay is really offering like a very unique kind of a triple action to your cleansing experience. This is something that's going to really purge your pore from any impurities that you have inside. Again, really mild surfactant, mild emulsifiers. This is going to eliminate all traces of makeup, but also purify and unclog the pores and tone the skin. In this, we have salicylic acid and citric acid. Obviously, recently, we started realizing that salicylic acid can sometimes be a bit antagonizing for darker skin. So we've moved to bio-salicylates, which are a more natural form of salicylic acid. And so this is a very, very gentle cleanser. It has cannabis oil, obviously, which is an amazing antioxidant. And this does wonder for those acne-prone skin. So those are for the cleansers. We also have an exfoliating mask. This is a very important product in the line. Exfoliation was something that we wanted to get right because darker skin tones need exfoliation. Our skin metabolism tends to kind of slow down when we find ourselves in colder climate where we don't have enough sufficient sunlight energy. The skin slows down, which means your natural exfoliation process slows down. If you combine that with the fact that we are prone to xerosis, this dehydration, that desquamation happens at a much higher rate, which is why we tend to get dull skin. You understand why having a system that can help buff away those dead skin, but also reboot the natural exfoliation system is so important. But we tend to overdo it. This is just something that we do in the community. We feel like those beads, like really exfoliating and us feeling it is what we need to do. And we learn that that's not quite the right way because that could trigger inflammation. And so we want to create really balanced exfoliator. So this is a chemical, but very, gently dosed chemicals and enzymes, enzymatic kind of exfoliator that's going to buff away those dead skin cells, reboot the natural exfoliation system. It has anti-inflammatory to kind of tone down that chemical effect, and it's just comfortable for the skin. Like I just love this product. So gentle and so effective. And we also have an essence. We decided to make an essence because customers kept telling us that when we moisturize our skin, we use this oil and this oil. And I asked him, and I was like, wait, when we are thirsty, do we drink oil or do we drink water?
Very interesting.
Right, but why would it be different for the skin? But we do have this cultural belief that when the skin is dry, we put lots of oils and butter oil, which it does the job. It's one part of the many ways that you can hydrate the skin. But for, again, melanin-rich skin, you really need to think about giving the skin humectant, this like real nourishment that's going to help the natural moisturizing factor and increase that, nutrition level deep down before you can put the occlusive and the oils. And so we created the Melaskin Reset Essence as a way to really give you that reset and vitalization to your skin metabolism. It's boosted by vitalized water. We have nutrient-rich botanicals, a lot of powerful humectant. It just kind of put the bounce back into that dehydrated skin, and it doesn't have any drying agent. I mean, this is an amazing formula to kind of reveal that smoother, kind of a firmer, more youthful skin. And we have, and I'm giving the products as you kind of use them in the routine. Then we have 70 Delight. 70 Delight is major. This product was major. It's still major. It is our bestseller. This is why customers come to us, and this is really part of the 456 identity, that our mission, which is a lot about solving for hyperpigmentation. There's a lot of it that goes into this product. When I started looking for a solution for my hyperpigmentation, I saw that what the market offered was serums that would, kind of give me those. Okay, you had two things. You could either get the serum that really doesn't do anything for you, or you get one that's doing it, but that's doing it too much. And then it works at first, and then you are getting even more hyperpigmentation after certain times because of what I explained before, the backlash from the melanocytes. And so we really wanted to find that balance and really go deeper into just understanding how melanogenesis work and how that complex that is, and that there are many different pathways that melanin is produced. So if you use that one hero ingredient approach, which is what we see a lot, is vitamin C and or just and well, that doesn't quite give that sustainable result that we wanted. And so we wanted to create this very potent but well-balanced formula that tackle melanin production through different pathways. So we have many different active ingredients that are doing the job here. Obviously, we have vitamin C because people love vitamin C. So we had to do it with like a medley of vitamins. So vitamin C, vitamin B3, which is niacinamide, vitamin B6. And what we saw is that obviously we know that all of these vitamins have a brightening effect. But when you combine them, they kind of boost each other's brightening effect and become stronger. So that was very interesting. We did it that way. We use exyl resorcinol, which is an alternative to hydroquinone. We see a lot of customers coming to us and saying, I was prescribed 4% hydroquinone. And that always makes me go, oh my God, like 4% for the whole face? For how long?
Right.
That ingredient is known to have quite an impact on the skin and, human health. And so we source for this active exyl resorcinol, which is a natural brightening. It's as effective as hydroquinone, just without the negative side effects of it. We are using a system called the hydroxyapatite, where a medley of brighteners really help transform eumelanin, the darker melanin, into pheomelanin, which is the brighter kind of melanin, to naturally reduce hyperpigmentation. It has glutathione. We added azelaic acid because that really helps block the process in the formation of hyperpigmentation. And so it has alpha arbutin, but it's creating a system that is super strong but super gentle at the same time, so you increase the skin's acceptance of the product. And then, as we always do it with 456, antioxidants, very important, anti-inflammatory is very important, and hydration. And so 7D Delight is like one of our hero products. We are always improving it, listening for feedback, and just to make sure that this formula continues to deliver for the customers. And we recently released a new serum, oil based, because again, customers are asking for retinoid. We want a retinoid based serum. And just studying retinoids and having used it myself and seeing the effect that it had on my skin, I was like, yeah, probably not. Another way. And so we formulated Max Glow Getter, which is a firm radiant serum. So it's both hyperpigmentation and kind of that youthfulness to it, anti-aging. And we're doing it not with retinol, but with bakuchi oil, which is a powerful but natural retinoid mimic, sort of just gentler for the skin, so a better option for darker skin tone. Again, exil resorcinol, and this one we added a lot of amazing, nourishing, skin barrier strengthening active like neem oil, nigella oil. It has coenzyme Q10, a lot of antioxidants. We are using a 100% plant-based silicone replacement because we don't want to use silicones, and this is becoming a very strong SKU in the line as well. And then we have Dayhack, which is our moisturizer. Again, Dayhack was one of those products where we're like, wait, we see that darker skin tone seems to have the skin that is oily, but is actually dry. It's combination skin. Why is that happening? That happens because when your skin is dry, which we know the skin tend to be, it creates this defense mechanism where your sebaceous gland are prompted to produce more oil to respond as a response to the dryness. And so how do you create a moisturizer that can take away that excess oil without overstripping the skin?
Right.
Because going to send a signal to produce more oil. How do you do that while sending the signal to the skin that you do not need to produce this much oil? And you actually do that through hydration. And so,
interesting.
This was a way that we create. This was a very complicated moisturizer to formulate and to get it to do the job on both sides. But it's an amazing product that you can also use as a primer for your skin. So that is the line. And this is the kind of product that we really want to keep creating for the community. We always go from the structure, the function of darker skin tone, and the concerns that come from that, and how can we create sustainable solutions. And the vision is really to kind of be that destination where men and women in our communities can go and know that they can find products that are truly, truly, truly made for them. And we're really excited that thanks to our lab, we can continue to create more high value products and just expand the catalog. Yeah.
But I love that you said that there are many women of color who have oily, dry skin.
Yes.
Because I'm one of them. Like, shine all over my face. Right before this, I was like, okay, I'll make sure I put some powder on before I do this. But I think that while it does keep us youthful in some ways, it is a challenge because it's not like your whole skin is oily. It's just oily in part. And I love that the answer is hydration, because you would think, some people think oily skin, no hydration, right?
Oily, yes, oils.
Oily, yes, oil. I love that. So that's a good message for us as consumers as well. Um, so talk to me about how you launched it and then where the line is available.
Yeah, so we've been D2C and just doing customized skincare solutions since we soft launched. And what we've been doing is really iterating based on customers' feedback and gathering data, right?
Mm-hmm.
So 2.5 years later, we have an amazing data that's really talking to us, that's teaching us a lot. That's telling us when you want to create hyperpigmentation solution for a phototype 5 that has combination skin, that is sensitive, that lives in this city, this combination of customized products seems to be working well across the phototype 4 spectrum, right?
Right.
So what we've done recently, because we're still only D2C right now,
Right.
but
But can
we
you
are
buy them
getting,
in the United States or is it only in
yeah,
France? Yeah.
absolutely. We ship to the United States every day, and the products get there really fast. And so now we have organized our retail line really based on our best performing customization combinations,
Mm-hmm.
right? We're going to come out with an amazing retail line in which we have so much confidence. We're more confident now because it's been validated by the community.
Right.
And the retail line is going to consist of this product that I just presented to you, the best combinations into our formulation, in our customization system.
Right.
And yeah, we are having amazing conversations right now with retailers. So more to come about that. Yeah,
Oh,
absolutely.
fabulous, fabulous. So I just have two more questions. They're not one's a question and one's tip related. So I mentioned when we would do the pre-interview that I really wanted to include like overcoming hard things. You've given examples throughout the episode, but what do you think the hardest thing that you had to overcome was in order to get 456 and to become an entrepreneur, in order to launch this brand, to bring it to life and to become an entrepreneur?
I would say bizarrely the hardest thing was myself. To
No, that's
be
not
absolutely
bizarre.
clear, it was my own self and my own negative self-talk and my my limitations, my self-belief. That was the hardest, to be honest with you, because for the rest was super harder. But I didn't know. this is this is when you are an entrepreneur at a later stage and you're kind of getting in an industry where you know some things, but you just quite don't know the entire process, which can seem very daunting and can discourage you. For me, I didn't know how hard it was going to be. So the challenges kind of came one after the other. And when I was facing them, I was like, yeah, that's today's challenge. So let's go and
Right.
figure out a solution. Right. I couldn't see them coming. So when you are in the moment like that, you don't think about, is this hard? No, you go for it, you find a solution, and that's it. And because we have so much to do, you have no idea the amount of work that goes to having this full of a process from the R&D to selling.
Right.
Been going from one challenge to another. So I haven't really had the time to kind of sit down and be like, what was complicated? What was difficult? Obviously, we had moments during COVID. I think COVID was really, really hard because we had a plan in place. We had found this amazing packaging manufacturer in Italy. We had just put down the deposit for the lab, and the whole country shut down like a week after. And I
Wow.
think that was my biggest moment. Was like, oh my God, what's going to happen? Are we even going to get our money back? The packaging manufacturer is closed, so we don't have packaging. I don't even know if we're launching anymore. So that was a tough moment because we didn't expect it. It just kind of came, but
Right.
we never have the time, and this is probably something that I need to change and kind of just sit down and look at the journey. But we never have the time to sit and say, is this hard or was that hard? Because the moment you're done solving one thing, another thing just comes right after and right after and right after. And so the difficulty ends up being really yourself. Is just, are you going to find that strength to get yourself back up when you've been knocked down, when something, a plan didn't go as you wanted it to go? Are you going to find the detour, the pivot? What are you going to do now that they've said no to you? Are you going to cry? You're going to still, are you still believing in yourself now that things are not going the way you want them to go? And I think this is the hardest part, because
I would agree.
the human mind, it gets involved in these things, and it's every day that your mind tells you you should give this thing up, like
Right.
you should just move and do something else because this is hard.
No, that's a great answer. That's a great answer, and a very real answer that people will be able to, anybody who's listening to this would be able to kind of apply to themselves. That when, I love the fact that you said, when we're encountering challenges as business owners, we're not sitting there going, wow, that's challenging. You're looking more at, what are we going to do so that we can get to the end? What are we doing what solutions do we need to find because we're doing this? As opposed
Yeah.
to, oh, this is hard, I'm going to lie down on the floor and not get out of bed or whatever. So I like that answer. So, and then my final question is, could you offer some tips on working with co-founders, finding and working with them?
Finding is the key part, because when you find a co-founder, then it's easy to work with them.
Okay.
And I learned some lessons along the way, the tough way, to be quite honest. I would say that when you're looking for a co-founder, at least that is the advice that I would give Noelly from 2 years ago, in the position. Do not let yourself be impressed by a resume. Because I did this, and I was coming from a point of not trusting myself, because I didn't have that background of, I've spent 15 years in this big house. I've come from this Ivy League school, and so I felt that I have what it takes to do this. Like, I feel that I belong. It was really that, and so I felt that I needed to go after people that had that resume, so that would make me look credible. And I kind of shut down my inner voice, which is really is one of my superpowers. Like, when I listen to myself, it usually works for me, and so when you operate that way, you can end up choosing what seems to be the right person, but for the wrong reason, right? And then you completely forget to apply the selection process to them, which is when you are looking for that co-founder. You really need to make sure that you are sharing the same vision, and that they really see your vision, really see it, and that they want to carry it out the same way. If you are someone that's trying to build a project for the long term, and you get a co-founder that wants to exit in like 3-5 years, you are not going to have the same attitude in how you build things and how you make those. Right. So you need to make sure that you have, you're aligned with the vision and how and to which space you want to take the company and where you want to take it. You want to make sure that you give yourselves enough trial time. Don't do it's been 2 weeks and we're vibing really well, so let's sign the contract. No, give it 6 months. I would even say give it 6 months, sign a contract that allow you to be in this trial period, so that you can ensure that you are able to work well with this person, that more importantly, you are able to give each other's feedback in a way that is real but respectful. And you just want to make sure that you like this person. But Sometimes, and that happened to me, you get a co-founder and you're like, I do not like this person. I do not like them a lot. And I'm finding myself having anxiety when we go into meetings, and I feel stressed. And this is really blocking my creativity. And I'm not feeling like this is my space,
Right.
and it's really important to give yourself that time, because you can then figure out in 3-6 months, like, no, this is an amazing person. They have an amazing resume. They have amazing skills, but it's still not the right person
Right.
for what I'm trying to do. And so ask for recommendations, ask around. If you find someone and you think that this could be the right person, I don't know, go on LinkedIn, ask them to give you references, just like you would do if you're right person. Talk to their friends, talk to their wife if you meet them, really trying to figure out who they are as a person, because that is massive. When you're entrepreneurs, you go through so many challenges and hurdles and difficult times. If you are not aligned with your co-founder at a personal level, this could be like the most skilled person in the world. Things are just not going to work out.
These are amazing tips. Amazing tips. I love the idea of wiggle room in a contract, that you don't commit to somebody, just like you don't commit to, like, you're going to get married after 3 months or the first date or something like that. Just because the tip about the resume and getting references, like you're hiring somebody for a job, you really need to do your due diligence, especially if you're going to be working side by side, because you don't want somebody that's going to diminish your dream. And I think that's amazing. So thank you for those tips, because they're great. So I want to ask, because people are going to be listening to this, how people get your products and how they can follow you on social. So if you could share both, that'd be great.
Yes, they can come to our website until we get out there in the retail space, which is something that we're really excited.
So what is the website?
The website is 456skin.com.
Okay.
And then you can follow us. Please follow us on Instagram at 456skin. And yes, this is where we are. We post a lot of educational content on our Instagram to really give you all of the great information you need to know about your skin, your skincare. We have an amazing blog on the website that demystifies a lot about darker skin tones and our process. So yeah, and if you have any questions, we do skin consultations as well. You can send us an email on hello@456skin.com to ask for one-on-one consultations with one of our skincare specialists.
That's fantastic. Well, Noelly, for me, as somebody who's been in this industry for a while and a veteran, I learned something today. And I love when I'm speaking to somebody and I learned quite a few things. I love the commitment to the 456 commitment to not only to the health of the skin and the environment, that you're not compromising on ingredients, and that you took the leap to move to New York, because if you didn't, none of this, it might have happened differently, but it put you on this path. So there are no accidents at all.
I really believe
it's divine plan. I think it's a divine plan. And thank you so much for being here today. That's our show for today. Follow our podcast at Start Right Here on Instagram, and check out the Last Word newsletter for my latest musings on beauty and inclusion. See you next time.